What is up, everybody? Welcome to Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Live. I am your host, Seamus Zarlingo, aka Celtics Every Day. Folks, we have one of those games for you. We have one of those games for Celtics Nation. The Boston Celtics tonight, out on the West Coast, against the Golden State Warriors. A familiar foe, a former finals foe. Against the Golden State Warriors, the Boston Celtics fall. You see here the score on the bottom, of course. 126 to 132 in overtime. In overtime, the Boston Celtics fall on the road. And of course, over the last month, coming here with my guys, by myself, whoever's in here, right? Every single game, except for the Indiana game, has been at home. And the Celtics took care of business at home. They really did. 14-0 on the season at home so far, and really one of the most, if not the most, dominant team in the NBA on their home floor. And during that stretch, we all handed out a lot of praise to the Celtics, rightfully so, because of the fact they played very, very, very well on their home floor. And like I said, the dominant team in the NBA, the most dominant team in the NBA. They go on the road, right, in San Francisco, and we see a result in which is a little bit concerning in my mind, just a little bit, a tad concerning. And I said on a post-game show earlier this season, and it could have been a post-game meeting, quite honestly, that when we come on these post-game shows, right, we should probably take the Celtics performing well at home in a short sample size with a grain of salt, because ultimately this team and this specific Celtics team, right, needs to prove themselves on the road and in tough situations of adversity, because so far, every single test of adversity on the road for the Celtics has come across their plate, not exactly eaten up by the Celtics. Not exactly. The one road game you can really point to and go, the Celtics, that's a road game you can really lean on, is that Philadelphia game in which they avenged only a week after losing in Philadelphia down the stretch. They lose a game in Minnesota down the stretch. They lose a game in Indiana down the stretch. They lose tonight in San Francisco down the stretch. And all 6 losses on the season so far for the Celtics, they're all losses in which came on the road and where the Celtics lost the game down the stretch. It's quite frustrating to see this kind of result play out for the Celtics over and over and over again on the road in adversity. It just is. And no matter what numbers you can pull out of this game and what optimism we're going to pull out of this game, because I am going to pull out some optimism from this game ultimately. It's not like the Celtics were all that bad individually around the board, because we did see some nice individual performances tonight out of a couple players and maybe some not so great performances out of some other players. But the Celtics road losses this year at Minnesota, at Philadelphia, at Charlotte, at Orlando, at Indiana, at Golden State, of course, in San Francisco. All of those games, the Celtics, you can legitimately say they owned a chance to win down the stretch in the fourth quarter and could not pull it out. Now, point of optimism here is the fact the Celtics could have won all these games. The Celtics, realistically, looking at the schedule and all of the games in which they've lost, they could be 26-0. Couple of possessions go a little bit differently. Team plays a little bit differently on both ends of the floor. Ball bounces differently. Maybe the Celtics are 26-0, but those 6 losses are all on the road and all in crunch time. And like I said, some optimism that the Celtics are in these games and could be undefeated ultimately. But the fact of the matter is, all of these games are the same situations. Down the stretch, fourth quarter, we need a bucket. Okay, we need a stop, we need a bucket. And the Celtics, they cannot get it done, particularly offensively, because defensively, I think in a lot of these games, we have seen the Celtics' ability to get stops. They're an elite defensive team. Yet offensively, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Of course, this team is amongst the league's leaders in offense for an entire game, but fourth quarter down the stretch on the road in this situation, oh my goodness, folks. Oh my goodness. This to me, I don't understand why this transpires for a veteran-led squad who's been to the finals, because we saw the possession down the stretch where the Celtics, five straight misses, five straight misses. Most of them, I believe all of them, came from three-point land. I think the last one may have been a Jaylen Brown layup attempt. But thinking about how the Celtics offense runs down the stretch in the fourth quarter, it's absolutely ridiculous that the team cannot run an offensive set and efficiently get themselves a shot and revert so often to hero ball and just chucking up threes when in reality they could be aggressive, driving towards the rim, putting the defense on their toes, and particularly Jason Tatum. Because I thought, let's give this player some praise tonight. 10 of 22 on the night, 28 points. I believe he had 8 rebounds and 7 assists. And that's Jaylen Brown. Because I thought he was a player who down the stretch, despite missing some bunnies, as they were saying on the broadcast, of course, despite missing some bunnies, Jaylen Brown was the only Celtic consistently taking it towards the rim down the stretch. And that's just a fact, because the rest of the Celtics were content with standing on the perimeter and shooting. And this is an underrated portion of basketball. And this is why the Miami Heat ultimately there at the end of the year, every single year, is when you're in those fourth quarter situations down the stretch, you've been up and down with the team an entire game. You see the minute count for all of our guys tonight. The teams who have extra legs going towards the rim that can put pressure on defenses, that is underrated. That is very valuable. The stamina it takes to do that is very underrated. And the Celtics, you saw down the stretch, Jaylen Brown was the player taking it towards the rim. No one else was on the same path. No one else. And maybe that's because the Celtics at this point in the season, maybe it's December, they've of course, we've seen the lead tracker. We're going to look at the lead tracker for this game in a moment, but the lead tracker for the Celtics the last couple of games and the last couple of weeks really at home, they've been able to take a little bit of rest, maybe shave a couple of minutes, and that's great for the team ultimately. But tonight, where they're up and down the floor the entire game and late in the fourth quarter, guys are settling for shots. Go to the rim. Go towards the rim. Frustrating to not see the Celtics be able to do that down the stretch and create themselves good looks. And I know people, let's get this out of the way too. The timeouts. Okay, people are going to argue that Joe Mazzulla should have called a timeout when the Celtics possessed the ball with 14 seconds left and the last possession for a chance to win. And in that situation, we've seen in the past, Joe Mazzulla is just going to let him go. And in this particular instance, I think it's okay to do so because of the amount of time left on the clock. The fact the Celtics had time to walk the ball up the court, hand it off to Jason Tatum, and Jason Tatum stand there near the half court line and then dribble into a contested three, the Celtics had more than enough time to run a legitimate offensive play within the rhythm of the game, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen, and I put that more on the players because in that moment, a veteran-led squad should be able to run their offense and find something, a good shot, something we didn't see within Jason Tatum's shot on the last possession of the fourth quarter. And in that instance, a coach shouldn't have to call a timeout and run through options, run through different sets with players when there's that much time left on the clock. There was 15 plus seconds left on the clock for the Celtics, like I said, to walk the ball up, to hand it off to Jason Tatum, for Jason Tatum to stand there with Kuminga on him before he even made a move. So I put that more on the players in that situation to not attack and go and find something within the rhythm of their offense, because I understand Jason Tatum's the star and you want him to get you the bucket. But sometimes I think situationally, right? Star players, we talk about how important star players are getting teams buckets down the stretch when other players cannot. Okay, role players sometimes down the stretch, lights are too bright. Some of them don't have the offensive skill set to take guys off the dribble and score on their own. And ultimately, that's when a star player, the lights are bright, and they own the ability to take guys off the dribble, create whatever shot they want. That's when they're so valuable, right? And Jason Tatum is that type of player. I'm not denying that in any manner whatsoever. But when you have the ability to create a good shot within your offense, like the Celtics have, and for Jason Tatum too, to attack, his ability to attack and draw a foul at the rim, the way we see he's able to do, to have the kind of possession and to take the kind of shot we saw on the last possession of the fourth quarter is absolutely ridiculous for Jason Tatum and the Celtics. It's absolutely ridiculous. No matter whether or not he's the star that should be taking the shot or not. Because in that situation, it's just a bad shot. It's just a bad shot. It's a bad possession. We've seen it before. It's unfortunate we've seen it before. But hopefully, moving forward, and you want to have faith in this as a Celtics fan, these are the type of moments that will grow not only Jaylen Brown, but Jason Tatum as well. I should have said that the other way around, because it was ultimately Jason Tatum who came up with the bad possession, but Jaylen Brown as well. We've seen both of them have these type of moments. But we've seen both of them have moments of great success too. But in these moments, you got to come up with better possessions in those situations late in the fourth quarter. And that's what's unfortunate about this game, outside of the fact the Celtics blew a huge lead in the second half. 17-point lead established in the third quarter. And we're going to go ahead here and look at the lead tracker for tonight, because this one's not good for the Celtics. It's really not good. The Celtics, they lost a pretty big lead in this one. And yeah, I believe I'm having some technical difficulties here on my end. I believe you guys can see the lead tracker. I cannot. However, on the lead tracker, the Celtics, you see, had a 17-point advantage in the third quarter, and it's a 23-point turnaround from the third quarter to overtime, and of course a 17-point turnaround going into overtime for the Celtics. What the third quarter, at one point in the third quarter, it looked as if the Celtics were just going to take this game by storm, going to run away with this game. It looked like it was going to be one of those, okay, this is a runaway freight train type of game, because we saw that type of game the last 4 games and even the last 5 games. If we really want to look at all those lead trackers, the Celtics against the Knicks, against the Cavs, against the Magic, at a certain point in the game, just completely ran away with all of those contests and came out with wins. And in this third quarter on the road against the Warriors, you see that 17-point spike right there. It looked as if that was the moment in the game the Celtics, here we go. Here come the Celtics, runaway freight train. You can't stop this team. We're about to be 21-5. We're about to beat the Warriors. Here we go. And instead, it's chip away, chip away, chip away for the Warriors. And it's not, it really didn't feel like one of those comebacks the Celtics see where, oh, the other team made 9 straight points, or the other team went on this crazy 20-3 run, and all of a sudden in 3 to 4 minutes the Celtics are out of the game, or the Celtics are tied. This was very much a chip away, chip away, chip away. Oh, wait, the Warriors, you see there at the end, the Celtics, it kind of felt like even late in the fourth quarter they had control of this game. 6-7 point lead, and then all of a sudden Steph Curry, he comes out 13 fourth quarter points. And unfortunately for the Celtics, I mean, Steph Curry is just our father at this point, because in NBA history, the numbers, the performances, it's just undeniable. The photos, it's undeniable. You got to just respect a great player like that, really. And it is what it is. But the Warriors at the end of the game, behind Steph Curry, right there, they force overtime. And in overtime, the Celtics, what's insane about the overtime period for the Celtics is the fact it really felt as if the Celtics weren't going to win this game, and their energy was low in overtime, and the Warriors' energy was high. Momentum totally swung towards the Warriors going into OT. However, the Celtics still had a legitimate chance to win the game. In the overtime period, the game's still within 5 the entirety of overtime until the end. And the Celtics, you just want to see them be better on the road. And 2 of 11 in overtime, 1 of 9 in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, which means they were 3 of 20. 3 of 20 in the final 10 minutes of the game. 2 shots per minute. They only make 3 over a 10-minute frame. That's just abysmal. It really is. And a lot of these shots, it was really just one of those nights where the ball just wasn't going into the basket. It really was not going into the basket. And that's a little bit of a point of optimism for this game, is the fact some of these misses, right, by the Celtics, the misses specifically at the rim, they just make absolutely no sense. Some of these go in 9 out of 10 times, and there's just a lid on the basket. There was just a lid on the basket. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. You definitely like to see, if you're a Celtics fan, better possessions down the stretch. But there were some undoubtedly some missed shots within that time frame where it's a good look. The Celtics have it at the rim. They have a good looking 3-point attempt. All of them missed. All of them. 2 of 11 in overtime. 1 of 9 over the final 5 minutes of the game. Crazy, crazy numbers for the Celtics. And I'm going to try to, I don't know what's happening with the graphics as we speak, because quite frankly, oh, there we go. I think we're good. We're good. A little bit of a technical difficulty there. Not really sure if my audio is even synced up right now. I noticed that I have audio problems. So hopefully all of this is synced up correctly, and we can get through this show smoothly. As you saw, if anybody was watching the other day, some technical internet difficulties halfway through the show. We powered through them quite well, and we made our Cater rant apparent for everybody to hear. So that was good. But hopefully this show is going along smoothly for audio and visual purposes. But I mentioned Kada. I think he has to be mentioned again for tonight's game because now just kind of coming off this, we're 25 minutes into the show, 20 minutes into talking here. Coming off this big, crazy kind of rant about the Celtics loss tonight in San Francisco. And I'm not willing to say it's a bad loss because no Porzingis, right? There's no Kristaps Porzingis. The Celtics, they miss some easy shots down the stretch. They really do. And you really look at it and go, and if a couple of those go in, maybe they win the game, right? And we're talking in a different light within this post-game setting. However, doesn't happen. They lose the game. It's first night of a back-to-back. They play in Sacramento tomorrow night. And some may say under these circumstances, you play Tatum and Brown and everyone this many minutes tonight, and you play in an overtime setting to start the West Coast road trip. Probably not good moving forward on the West Coast road trip when you have Sacramento and both Los Angeles teams coming up. And we know both Los Angeles teams, they're starting to hit their stride a little bit, particularly the Clippers with James Harden. So playing this overtime game tonight, the Celtics, bad loss, good loss. It's not a terrible loss. It's not as bad of a loss as the Orlando loss, I would say, in the in-season tournament. However, it's still not a great one considering the circumstances, 17-point lead only to lose it. But I do want to bring out some optimism for this game because I know I've brought out a lot of negative for the Celtics, brought up some points of optimism, but some individual optimism. Neemias Queta. This man is going to have a roster spot at the end of the season, okay? He's going to have a roster spot undoubtedly in my mind if he continues to perform in this light. And a lot of people were calling on Queta to be in the rotation over Luke Cornett at the beginning of the season. And I still believe Luke Cornett positionally and what he's able to do on both ends of the floor, setting screens, blocking shots, and defensively always being in the right position. Now, of course, he's very limited from a versatility standpoint. Switching on defense, teams are going to want to switch onto Luke Cornett, and that's a negative within his game. However, I still think Luke Cornett a little bit higher than Queta on the totem pole within the big man rotation. However, Queta, he's proven to be a fairly competent big man off the bench in his minutes in which he's receiving with our big men out of the lineup. Porzingis, Horford's been out of the lineup. Cornett, of course, was out tonight. But Queta, he's a two-way player, so he's not officially on the standard roster. He can be converted to a standard roster spot before the end of the season and play within the playoffs for the Celtics. The Celtics do have an open roster spot. They have the 15th spot open right now for anyone to sign, and I imagine they'll probably keep it for later on in the season. But we'll see what happens with Queta's roster spot tonight. Double-double for Queta. 10 points, 10 rebounds, and he played 20 minutes, 5 of 8. And he was 3 of 5 in the first half, 2 of 3 in the second half. And during his minutes, he made an impact. He was plus 10, and you look to 1 assist, 1 steal. He is someone who is progressing within his game because at the beginning of the season, I saw him in Memphis, and one of my impressions of him was maybe not exactly in shape to play heavy minutes. Yet tonight, 20 minutes, he puts up a double-double in San Francisco. And in the second half, when he was asked to come in, I thought his impact was known on the floor as a presence in the paint. And for a good majority of this game, for a good portion of this game. Now, what's so frustrating about the final result of this game is how well the Celtics played throughout this game. And we'll get to that in a lot in some of these individual performances. But the points in the paint battle, the Celtics were winning that battle for a good margin of the game until the end of the game. And Keita was a good part of that. And for him to develop and progress to this point already in the season in December, I think we could see whatever happens at the trade deadline. There are rumors the Celtics are potentially going to be aggressive in adding bench help. And what that means is potential consolidation. We only have one roster spot open right now, but maybe another one opens up and the Celtics bring in bench help via trade, bring in bench help via the buyout market, and even give Keita a roster spot later on in time. This is all potentially in the cards for the Celtics moving forward. And Keita to be playing this well at this point in the season in this role, even in this small 20-minute per game role, right? And he's not going to receive this many minutes every single night. This is great to see as for any NBA fan, really. Celtics fans, of course, you want to see players succeed on your own roster because that only means your team, the likelihood of your team being better with players succeeding, especially in the G League, and then so on and so forth at the end of the roster, your chances of being better and sustaining your success increase. However, for NBA fans, to see guys be in the G League, come out of the G League, and have this kind of road in which Kate now had on multiple NBA franchises and be able to develop into what he is now a potential, you never know, he could be a potential rotation player this time next season. That's awesome to see. That's absolutely awesome to see. And Keita, huge shout out to Nehemias Keita tonight. I got to get his first name right. I don't even know if I've gotten his first name right up to this point yet on the season. I feel like I've butchered it on this post-game show a couple of times, but regardless, Keita this season, the progression, awesome. Outside of Keita, though, he unfortunately, he could have been, made for argument's sake, in his role tonight with Cornette, with Porzingis out of the lineup. Maybe, just maybe, could have won player of the game in his role, but we had a couple of other stellar performances, especially at the top of the Celtics roster tonight within the starting group. And one of those players, of course, our player of the game tonight, Derek White. Derek White, this is quite the run. Derek White is on 30 points tonight for the Celtics, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks for Derek White, 11 of 24 from the floor, 7 3-pointers made, and 18 3-point attempts for Derek White on the night. That's quite unusual. And I will say a lot of his attempts in general and his 3-point attempts did come at the end of the fourth quarter and in overtime when the Celtics were seemingly chucking up shots. And during that possession, where the Celtics missed 5 straight shots in a row, I believe 2 of his 3-point attempts were on that possession. But Derek White, aside from what happened late in the game and unfortunately him being unable to hit one of those key shots down the stretch, he was fantastic the rest of this game, and his scoring presence was known in a spot where we're going to talk about some other players where some other players might have been lacking. And Derek White's scoring punch, it was very much needed tonight. And despite the fact he might have missed a couple of shots down the stretch, he did make a couple of big shots in the fourth quarter to keep the Celtics, I don't want to say within the game, because it's not as if the Celtics were fighting back or fighting to stay within the game, but they were trying to sustain their lead, right? And just didn't happen. But Derek White was big in this game, as you see his stat line tonight, 30 points. That is not a norm for Derek White. But as of late, Derek White has been putting up these high scoring games, and this one tonight came at a 2 free throw attempts for Derek White tonight. Typically, as of late, Derek White has been getting to the free throw line, and that's why we're seeing his scoring numbers go up just a tad. Getting to the free throw line, just those couple extra attempts per game can really make a difference in a couple of scoring lines from night to night. And Derek White, he did it without the free throws tonight. 7 3-point makes, and of course 30 points on the night for Derek White. But he wins our player of the game. Celtics Talk Weekly's player of the game for the Celtics game in Golden State this December. And of course, always love to see the festive hat and the festive hat, the Santa hat. What am I talking about? And the festive graphic around any player who wins player of the game this holiday season, of course. But Derek White, he was fantastic tonight. Another player who could have potentially won player of the game, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, 28 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists tonight for Jaylen Brown. 10 of 22 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3. So Jaylen Brown, we talked about last game. You see the 3-point makes last game. That can really boost his performance, right? And comes in tonight, only 1 of 4. That's typically more in line of what we see from Jaylen Brown from night to night. This many attempts from 3, and the makes, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever they may be. But Jaylen Brown, you see the fluctuation within his 3-point attempts, his 3-point game in total, but the free throw attempts didn't see too many free throw attempts last game. Tonight's 7 of 8 from the free throw line. That's what made up part of his scoring line. I said this last game, he can get 20 on a nightly basis, but you see the 3-point makes or potentially the free throw attempts. That's what can really boost Jaylen Brown's performance, and not only Jaylen Brown, but other players' performances as well. And tonight, he goes for 20 without the free throw attempts, he goes for 21 without the free throw attempts, and his performance is boosted to 28 points on the night with free throws. He also had a block on the night. The unfortunate part of Jaylen Brown's game, not 9. Whew, that would be bad. 4 turnovers on the night for Jaylen Brown. That almost sounds better than 9, in which I almost blurted out there. But 4 turnovers on the night for Jaylen Brown. You want to see that number be a little bit lower, right? Jaylen Brown, we talked about the turnovers. As of late, they've been good. But tonight, 4 turnovers, not exactly what you want to see. As for the first prong, the 2 prongs of the Jays, right? Jaylen Brown had a nice game tonight. He did. And despite the 4 turnovers, you saw his impact, 7 assists, 28 points on the night, got to the free throw line. And as I said earlier, he was one of the only Celtics being consistently aggressive going towards the rim late in the game. Well, Jason Tatum, I can't say the same about Jason Tatum tonight. And Jason Tatum, we've seen a little bit as of late. Couple of games where shooting is a little bit lackluster, and his performance been a little bit in the shadow, right? And it's not as if he's having terrible performances, because tonight he did, ultimately, we'll get to all of his numbers here. He did have a couple of numbers here that stuck out and made an impact, but shooting has not been his strong suit as of late. We know Jason Tatum can shoot the basketball, but tonight, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals. This is where we get 5 of 17 from the floor, 2 of 9 from 3, 2 of 9 from 3, 2 of 9. So 17 shots on the night, 9 of them are from 3, 8 of them are from 2. And mind you, this is one of the most dominant paint players in the NBA. Going towards the rim, going to the basket. Jason Tatum is one of the most dominant players in the NBA. He takes 8 2-point attempts, 9 threes. That is not the ratio you want to see from Tatum. It's just not, from my perspective. 3 of 3 from the free throw line. You want to see Jason Tatum get to the free throw line more, because if he's driving aggressively, if a couple of these 9 3-point attempts, right, are going towards the rim, and he's driving, attacking, piercing into the Warriors defense, maybe he comes out with more than 3 free throw attempts. And you never know, too. His 5 of 17 shooting line looks a lot better, getting buckets close to the rim instead of settling for threes. And I'm all for taking good threes, right? Good open threes within the rhythm of your offense. Or, of course, as a bucket getter, if Jason Tatum feels this is his moment, right? I'm fine with that. But tonight, we saw the last possession. That wasn't great. And the ratio of shots, 8 2-point attempts to 9 threes, doesn't get to the free throw line more than 3 times tonight. That's not what you want to see out of Jason Tatum. It really isn't. And this, I'm not going to say this is concerning or anything, because it's not. It's really not. We saw this 2 years ago. The Warriors made it tough on him. They made it tough on him again tonight. And it's a different story because players are completely different from 2 years ago to now. Draymond Green, big part of the Warriors defense, is not there right now. And things should have been a little bit easier for the Celtics tonight. And there were moments in which they were. But the 5 of 17 from Jason Tatum specifically, when Draymond Green's not there, when the Warriors are this decimated, want to see him be more aggressive. You want to see him be more aggressive in this spot. And hopefully tomorrow night, when the Celtics come out in Sacramento against De'Aaron Fox, somebody in the same draft class as Tatum and somebody who's going to go at him tomorrow, you want to see Jason Tatum be more aggressive tomorrow night in Sacramento than he was tonight in Golden State, in San Francisco. Another player who had I don't want to say it, I shouldn't say another player, because we're talking about a negative in regards to Jason Tatum and his performance, because I think even Jason Tatum will admit, despite the 8 rebounds, 7 assists, performance wasn't that great tonight. But this player, I thought his performance, it exceeded expectations in the role he had to play tonight, because he ultimately, at the age he's at right now, he matched his age in minutes tonight. Al Horford, 38 minutes on the night, 13 points, double-double, 12 rebounds, 6 assists for Al Horford on the night, 1 block, 2 turnovers on the night as well. And his shooting lines, not too great. 4 of 14, 3 of 10 from 3. And again, a lot of those, mentioned it with Derek White, a lot of those came down the stretch and in overtime, where it felt like the Celtics were just chucking threes. And Al Horford, he had a nice game tonight. The shooting line wasn't all that great, but him being physical and his positioning specifically on defense, it does have an impact to the Celtics. Of course, when he's mostly coming off the bench this season, he's playing kind of 25-minute per game role. Tonight, it was increased, and you saw he had that nice block on, I believe it was Curry, late in the fourth, or might have been late in the third. I'm not sure which quarter it was in, but Al Horford's impact at 38 years old, and him being able to play this many minutes and still almost put up a triple-double at his age. I mean, I come on here every single post game and praise Al Horford, but tonight is a real moment to praise him against the Warriors on the road, because even 2 years ago when the Celtics lost the finals to the Warriors, there are many reasons as to why the Celtics lost that final series to the Warriors. However, Al Horford, for a good portion of that series, played well. And to come out against a team in which we saw him play well against 2 years ago, and there's some history here. of course, there's a lot of history. You want to see this type of Al Horford performance on the road, despite the L, and that's what just kind of it's a bummer about this game is that you got this kind of performance out of Al Horford. Like I said, the shooting line wasn't all that great, but he gives you a double double and 6 assists and does produce for your team in 38 minutes of play. It's unfortunate the Celtics were not able to pull out a game in which Al Horford was able to produce at this level for 38 minutes, because how many more performances are you going to get out of Al Horford like this against other teams? Hard to say moving forward. But for what Al Horford was able to do, good night for Al Horford. Some other individual stat lines here, just running through it. Drew Holiday, not really going to go in depth on a couple of these players, but Drew Holiday was nice tonight. 13 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 5 of 12 for Drew Holiday on the night. The bench wasn't all that great tonight, and you can chalk some of that up to the fact Luke Kornet's out, Kristaps is out, so Al Horford moves up to the starting lineup. And like I said, Kata played well off the bench. Pritchard had a nice night too. He was 4 of 6, 11 points. But some other performers off the bench, specifically Sam Hauser, right? And 2 guys, O'Shea Brissett, Svi Mikhailuk, didn't get too much of a run tonight. But Sam Hauser, 0 of 7 from the field tonight, 0 of 6 from 3. It's kind of one of those Sam Hauser nights. Talked about it on the post game in the past where Sam Hauser, he's going to have a game. Like next game. Could be tomorrow night against the Kings. Running up and down the floor. A lot of 3-point attempts between the Celtics and Kings I'm anticipating for tomorrow night. Could be a game where Sam Hauser goes 6 of 7 from 3 and shocks all of us and scores 20 points. It really could be. And that's the kind of game he's in for, because these type of performances we see sometimes, this is what happens. When you're that type of 3-point shooter, when you're that spark plug 3-point shooter like that, catch and shoot, you're pretty much, he's a kind of a Duncan Robinson type where he's just shooting everything, right? 0 of 6 from 3. They just didn't go in tonight. They didn't go in. And that's only 6 3-point attempts. Relatively low sample size, I will say. But we'll see in the future. He'll have a performance where he's lighting the gym on fire. But 0 of 6 tonight on the road. No points for Sam Hauser. Sorry, 2 points for Sam Hauser on the night. Nope, sorry. 0 points for Sam Hauser. 2 turnovers in 20 minutes. Had to get that line correct. But the Celtics starters, some bright spots, some nights not so bright spots. Shooting numbers, not amazing across the board. The Celtics on the night shot 47 of 114. 47 of 114. 41.2%. So the streak of the Celtics shooting, now their streak of shooting 50% actually ended last game, but they were 49%, almost shooting 50% the last couple of games. That comes to an end, and they shoot 41% on the night. A couple of those are impacted by the fact the Celtics could not get a shot to go in down the stretch in overtime or in the fourth quarter. Some of them were good attempts, some of them just chucking up threes at the end of the day. But like I said, individually for all the Celtics, some bright spots, some not so bright spots on the night. Looking over to the Warriors now, as I always like to look at the other team in regards to the Celtics facing another opponent, right? We'll look at the Sacramento Kings tomorrow night, folks. I love the Sacramento Kings. I have a Sacramento Kings jersey right over there. I'm a huge Celtics fan, don't get me wrong. We're doing Celtics Talk Weekly. I'm a diehard Celtics fan, but tomorrow we'll be talking about the Kings, and I can't wait. But tonight we have to talk about the Warriors. I know we have to talk about the Warriors, but the Warriors are not good this year. They're 13 and 14, and Draymond's going to be out for a good portion of time, which to me is going to derail them quite a bit. And we could have definitely put a damper on their record, and even a bigger dent in their record tonight if we came through that. We being we, if I say we, but the Celtics, of course, could have forced them to be 12 and 15 after tonight, but they're 13 and 14 instead. However, this Warriors team, um, Steph Curry is from night to night. He's kind of going to be the gauge on where they go. Now, it's not to say that Steph Curry is ultimately the only factor, right, within the Warriors system, right? There are other guys who are going to have to step up, but if Steph plays extraordinary, they're going to have a chance to win. If he doesn't, they don't have other options to go to, because even Klay Thompson tonight, right? Klay Thompson, he had 24 points on the night, and in the first half, it looked like Klay Thompson of old. For a good portion of this game, it looked like Klay Thompson of old, and we kind of looked at it and went, "Oh my goodness, is this going to be a moment where Klay Thompson, he can't perform against all these other teams? He's going to come in against the Celtics and whoop us? He's going to whoop us. Okay, Klay Thompson, he's going to whoop us." Didn't really happen. 24 points on the night, 6 of 15 from 3, 9 of 21 from the floor, and his presence certainly faded as the game went on. And I would certainly say the two players in which had more of an impact down the stretch were Chris Paul and Steph Curry. But if Steph isn't playing at a phenomenal level, it's going to be hard for them. It's going to be really hard for them to win ball games. And Steph was at a phenomenal level tonight in the fourth quarter and then into overtime, as we saw, just putting us to sleep. I mean, literally putting us to sleep. I'm asleep, Steph Curry. I'm asleep. Okay? Is this what you wanted? I'm asleep. Because that's what he did. As for the other Warriors, Kuminga had a good game. And this is what I'm so confused about their entire relationship with Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga and Moses Moody should just be playing more all the time, every day. They treat these young guys like, nope, you can't, you can't play next to Steph. You can't play within our system. You can't. The Warriors, to me, have done a terrible job at adapting to some of what they have within their young guys. And by this, I simply mean when you have developable young talent, right, that is different from what talent you've owned in the past, or what is different from what you need in the current moment for what system you're trying to run. You need to adapt what you're doing to accommodate that talent, in which ultimately you have to play at this point in time. You have to play them. There's no other choice. And to create a system, a winning system, in which works with them involved. Kuminga, Moody, even Brandon Pajinski, all of these guys should be involved way more. Involve them way more. And I honestly don't expect them to be stars. I really don't. We'll see if any of them do ascend into that level ever, which is possible. We've seen it in the NBA, right? But some of these players, Kuminga, Moses Moody, Pajinski does get some playing time. He even started tonight. He was injured halfway through the game. Didn't play the second half. But these players, they need to be more involved with the Warriors, and they ultimately have to be more integrated and brought along further, and not just set aside because they don't fit in with what Steve Kerr wants to do with Klay and Steph, because that's why James Wiseman isn't on the roster anymore. The fact, remember that was the conversation. The Warriors were going to trade James Wiseman for Sadiq Bey, which I actually would like Sadiq Bey on this Warriors roster. But instead, Sadiq Bey ends up in Atlanta. James Wiseman is no longer a Warrior. And you can say James Wiseman and the Pistons not having the greatest of seasons, but the development of young players for the Warriors is very peculiar. It really is. And you definitely see that being highlighted in a guy like Kuminga who had 17 points, 7 rebounds, and he did play some good defense on Jason Tatum tonight down the stretch. I will say he was 8 of 13 as well. It's weird that a guy like that doesn't get more of a run consistently and is more trusted, because even if you don't trust him, you're going to have to bring him along one day. Jordan Poole, I'll mention too. He's in this conversation. The Warriors, why couldn't they develop Jordan Poole exactly? He was 24 years old. I'm not exactly in support of trading a 24-year-old for a 37-year-old. And yes, Chris Paul had 12 assists tonight, 9 points, 7 rebounds, almost a triple-double on the night, and was certainly impactful for the Warriors, but he was only 4 of 12 at the end of the night, came off the bench, and how much longer is he going to be around? Jordan Poole, everyone loves to clown on Jordan Poole, but why can't the Warriors develop some of this young talent that we see clearly has talent? We see Kuminga tonight. He showed flashes on both ends of the floor. Like I said, maybe not an all-star or a star in the future, but a rotational NBA player. Jordan Poole, again, rotational NBA player. We'll see where his career goes now that he's in Washington and the kind of contract he has. But these are type of players that the Warriors should be bringing along next to their guys within their dynasty. And instead, it's like, we don't have any help. We don't have anything. Draymond's out. Oh no. I don't understand it. Andrew Wiggins, I don't understand what's happened to him either. 2 of 11 tonight, 6 points, 7 rebounds. And of course, it's 7 rebounds in 21 minutes, which is pretty good. 2 years ago in the finals, Andrew Wiggins could have won finals MVP because of how well he played in that series on both ends of the floor, making shots, being aggressive, going towards the rim. And I cannot get the picture out of my head of him grabbing a rebound over the entire Celtics team 2 years ago in Golden State in Game 5, because he was legitimately one of the most dominant rebounding forwards in the Celtics Warriors final series I've ever seen. That one series, that one moment. I've never seen a forward rebound like that ever. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, like that's what he was on par with. And that's ultimately why he went number 1 overall in the NBA draft back in 2014, is the thought that could be the guy all the time. If he's that all the time, that's an all-time player, Andrew Wiggins. But that one moment in the finals, he has a ring against the Celtics with the Warriors. But this is like totally on brand for Andrew Wiggins' career. It really is. Because his entire early portion of his career was, he looks amazing on some nights, and the next 2 nights, you can't find him on court. He plays 30 minutes, but he's not doing anything. Where's Andrew Wiggins? But now with the Golden State 2 years ago, he has his moment in the finals of potentially being finals MVP, dominating the Celtics on the boards, dominating the Celtics in the paint. And now, fast forward 2 years, he shoots 2 of 11 against the Celtics, plays 21 minutes, scores 6 points, and is a non-factor. And he's been a non-factor for this team consistently this season. That's just, how? How does this sort of thing happen for an NBA player? the consistency of the inconsistency is mind-boggling. It really is. And I really do. Now, I'm not trying to hate on Andrew Wiggins, right? Because we're telling the truth here about what the story is with Andrew Wiggins, but I hope he comes back and is an impactful player with the squad because he's already been benched. He came off the bench tonight, played 21 minutes. I hope he comes back strong with this Warriors team and he can make the impact we saw him make 2 years ago and be a factor for the starters within the rotation and for the team to be a competitive squad out west. I want to see as many competitive squads as possible. And if Andrew Wiggins is good, the Warriors are better. And they're not sitting around 500. We'll see what happens moving forward. It's December. It's still December. Still have time for players to break out a little bit from maybe an off-season slump coming in, right? Coming off the off-season into a slump potentially. But Andrew Wiggins up to this point, whew, it's crazy what's going on in Golden State and with him at the moment. It's a good thing, though, with some of these players, that they are paid. They are paid, no matter what we say on here, Celtics Talk Weekly, post-game, wherever. A lot of these guys are paid. That's what matters. But the Warriors, another guy you got to highlight, Trace Jackson Davis. He was almost like their Kada tonight, except he was a second-round pick. Not a two-way guy for them. He's shown a couple of flashes for them this season. They know about him, and so do a couple of other teams around the league. But the Celtics know about him now, and so does Celtics Nation. 10 points, 13 rebounds for Trace Jackson Davis on the night. He was 5 of 7 from the floor, and he had 3 blocks too. So the Warriors, kind of weird that they drafted James Wiseman second overall, and you're pretty much getting the same production out of your second round pick from last year, or 2023 now, your rookie this year, Trace Jackson Davis, as you would Jonathan Kuminga, or not Jonathan Kuminga, what am I talking about? James Wiseman. We're so late into this show on a West Coast game. It's 3 a.m. on the East Coast right now. 2 a.m. though, where I'm at. So got an extra hour here, but man, it is late. And the Celtics, they lost this game, okay? They lost. We all know they lost. I don't know what else I want to talk about for this game because let's face it, this one should have been a win. We see the other games. Minnesota, Indiana, Orlando, Philadelphia, Charlotte, all of the other games, all of these losses, the 6 losses are all on the road for the Celtics. And it's absolutely unfortunate that the Celtics, time and time again, cannot seem to face that adversity down the stretch and get over the hump. And we've yet to see that this season, but they'll have a chance tomorrow against the Sacramento Kings. They really will. The Sacramento Kings, they're going to be tough to play on the road and in their home building. They're going to want to try to light the beam tomorrow night against the best team now in the NBA so far this season. They're going to be competitive. We're going to be in that building. They've had a couple of days of rest now, I believe. And this is going to be the second night of a back-to-back for the Celtics. They have to be ready mentally. And, of course, getting that rest. I hope they're resting right now. If any Celtics are watching this game, get off the broadcast. Go rest, bro. Go rest. Go do your thing because, man, the Celtics, they're going to have quite a bit to deal with tomorrow in Sacramento. But like I said, it's going to be a chance for the team to prove themselves in a moment, in a situation, in a game situation coming in of adversity on the road, second night of a back-to-back, second game of a West Coast road trip coming up, of course, for the Celtics as well. But that's all I got for everybody here tonight on the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. Not exactly happy the Celtics couldn't pull this one out, but what can you say? What can you say? The Warriors, Steph Curry, didn't really talk about him too much. He had 33 points tonight, 6 made threes, 13 points in the fourth quarter. Steph Curry is an all-time great player. I have to give him some individual praise here at the end of the post game because no matter what Celtics Nation thinks about him, for what happened 2 years ago in the finals, for what happened tonight, unfortunately, in Golden State, the man is an all-time great player, and we've seen all-time great players. Of course, the guy named by by the name of LeBron James come through Boston before and absolutely just scorch the earth to the point where the Celtics, no matter what they do, just doesn't seem like they have enough to stop them. And Steph Curry just gave us one of those performances late in the fourth quarter tonight. And you just have to live with that if you're a Celtics fan. You're not going to see that every single night out of NBA teams. And the Celtics, of course, have some all time great players on their roster as well who are going to impose their will to other teams and other moments later on in the season and in time. So this down moment, this negative moment for the Celtics in which they blow a game on the road in a moment of adversity against a team you of course love to see the Celtics potentially beat after what happened in the past. However, the Celtics not able to do so tonight as they fall to the Warriors 126 to 132, falling to 20-6 on this season. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, aka Celtics Every Day. I will be here again tomorrow night for the Celtics versus the Kings. I hope to have some of my crew members with me tomorrow for the Celtics Kings post-game show. But regardless, I will be here with you guys tomorrow to cover that one late night. Tonight, the Celtics, of course, cannot pull it out. Tomorrow, we hope for a different result. But like I say, signing off the show every single time, thank you all for listening to the Celtics Talk Weekly postgame show. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, and go Celtics.